guys, look at my first kayak. I'm trying to sell this kayak today. I wanted to show it to you guys before I sold it, so you can see what I had, where I started. So you don't need to have a Hobie, but I'm going to say you do need to know the ledge. And put a video with this and shows you what I mean by that, because this is the boat I could afford at the time, and this is the boat I used for everything, and this is the boat I almost died in. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, thanks for stopping by. Today's video is gonna be different. So my channel is random. It'll probably always stay random. It's still fishing related, but it's different. Today I'm gonna tell you a story. As the title says, I think it's, the third time I almost died. I've been in some hairy situations. Out of all of them, this was the one that actually put the most fear in me. I think I was the closest out of all of them. Now, if you want to hear one of the other two, let me know in the comments below, but I've been full-blown 100% in the throes of hypothermia. I have been heat exhaustion 4 times. I was on the verge of a heat stroke once with no one around, and I knew I was in trouble and I had to get to help. I've been in an active shooter scenario. So I don't think anybody would argue, and I apologize for everybody who watches this who knows what that scenario was and who was there with me. But I don't think anybody would argue that, yeah, those are punch your ticket type situations. This one was the punch the ticket situation though. I bought this boat, started paddling around, and it was great. I bought it, to start getting into some creeks and little swamps and things like that. Quick trips off the bank, throwing it over guardrails, places that didn't have access. But, Kenny was, why don't you go saltwater? He was going saltwater. He had a very different boat than I had. Here I am, this little 10-foot sit-in, and I was like, I'll be good. We're gonna stay inshore. We're not gonna go out. He told me I would probably need to get a bigger boat, but hey, money was a thing. And on this particular day, I got out and I was in some backwaters in the marsh, and these storms, thunderstorms, just kept rolling in on us and kept rolling in on us and kept rolling in on us. Well, I got off the water, loaded everything up, and just kind of hung around the county in the truck, watching the radar, trying to see, because it was a long drive. I didn't want to come back to Richmond. The weather cleared up. The radar was wide open. There was no red. There was no lightning strikes. There was nothing. So I drove to another spot, which I felt would have been slightly protected from the direction the winds had been coming all day, which it would have been. Sorry, I'm trying to get over a cold. Got there, there's another guy who pulled up who I'd seen before. He was with his kid, and you'll see in the video that follows my story here, you'll see a brief piece of it. And he had his canoe, and I'm looking at the radar on my phone, and he asked me, he said, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, the radar is clear. We had blue sky, puffy clouds. We had a little bit of a gust, maybe like 10 to 15, but it wasn't coming off the Chesapeake. It was coming from land going out. So I was like, I think we're good. There's not going to be, the waves aren't going to be up. We've got blue sky. There's nothing on the radar. He was like, yeah, let's go for it. So he puts his canoe in with his, I think his son was 15 or 14 at the time, and he goes kind of to the right. I put my kayak in and I start fishing out towards open water. So for all of you guys that fish with me to watch this, I went out past the last posts, like those last few posts that the birds are on. I went just past that, just till I started getting into the rollers, okay, which is out unprotected from the marsh. It's still not very deep. The Chesapeake Bay is just not deep, right? So we're talking at high tide 6 to 10 feet where I was on the rollers, okay? Low tide, I don't know, 4 to 6, 5 foot, something like that. And I'm fine. I'm fishing around. Wasn't getting anything, and seen a few small striper or whatever. And at this time, I'm not on YouTube, so I don't have cameras rolling. This was shot on a Fujifilm XD, one of those cameras that you can drop in the water and freeze and mud and hit and all that good stuff. And I had that in my lap. Now, I made a bunch of mistakes. I had my life jacket tied to the bungees on the front of the boat because this is a sit-in and it was little and the life jacket was cumbersome. Mistake number one. Mistake number 2 was being by myself out in salt water. Not a good idea. If you're gonna do big water, you don't go out on big water by yourself. And then probably mistake number 3 was just not being experienced enough. And then what transpired is I'm sitting out on the rollers, right? And if you don't know what rollers are, they're easy waves that go up and down. They're not the choppy waves that hit the boat. And I'm looking down and I'm tying a knot, and I remember the boat rocked really hard to the starboard. Like, I mean, it rocked like 45. Like, I grabbed it. It scared the crap out of me. The boat went from level to dipping to the secondary stability. If you got a kayak, you know you're stable and you roll to another stable point. The wave put me on my secondary stability, and I'm sitting there tying a knot, not paying attention, and it scared me. I grabbed the boat and immediately, what's going on? I turned to my left. I couldn't see the land. There was a curtain of water. It looked like somebody had taken a bubble level and just across the earth, as far as I could see to the horizon, and I couldn't see the house, I couldn't see anything. There was a curtain of water coming at me. It literally, you couldn't see through it. The water was coming down so hard you couldn't see through it. And I apologize, this video will have cursing in it. But I remember when I saw it, I said, oh, and before I got the word out, the wind slammed me. Like, my head actually went back from the force of the wind that hit me. And it never let up. So once those winds hit, they were not gusts. The winds that you'll see in this video were sustained. They did not let up for 20, almost 30 minutes. They just blew straight line winds that never dropped. There was no gust involved. It was as if somebody had turned on a leaf blower and just left it on. Okay, that's the kind of wind we're talking about here. When that wind hit me, the boat rocked so hard that I had to lean back left to keep the boat from rolling, because immediately I was hit with a 3-foot white cap. Now, we went from calm, nice little cat paw rollers, to the boat being tipped, looking to the left, and within 3 seconds, a 3-foot white cap hit the boat. I put the rods down, immediately went into get the F out of here mode, like, what am I gonna do here? And the first thing, I was like, there's marsh grass this way, the wind's coming this way, I'm gonna go that way. Well, I was perpendicular to the wind because the waves are coming in. The boat wanted to sit in the trough, so the boat actually turned. The waves are coming in broadside, okay? And I was in the trough, which is the worst place to be. In any vessel you're in, if you're in the trough, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. If your bow is not cutting those waves, you are in trouble. You've got to get control of the vessel. The wind was so bad, I had the paddle on my lap. When I dug in on the right to try to twist the boat, it caught the left blade, and the boat immediately, I felt my center of gravity come straight up where the wind caught that paddle and tried to cartwheel me. So I slammed the paddle back down, at which point a wave dumped in the boat. My memory, it felt like someone took a 5-gallon bucket and just whoosh, right into my lap. At that moment, I said to myself, this is where I'm gonna check out. At that moment, I said, I'm gonna do my best, but this is where I may not make it back. I'm always prepared, and I told my wife, I said, hey, I might go out there, I may not come back one day, right? Because I know I push it. But in this moment, my brain couldn't think faster than what was going on, and I realized that I accepted that I may not make it out, but I fought. And so I tried to paddle again. The boat went to roll again. Another wave crosses over the boat. So then I'm thinking, I tried to dig on the right to spin the tail of the boat around. I couldn't do that either. I could not get out of the troughs. Now, my boat is sitting inside of 3 to 4 foot white caps at this point. Like, I am riding hard. I could not get the boat into the wave. I couldn't get the tail into the wave. I couldn't cut across the wave this way. I literally was at the mercy of the waves. I was just doing this and taking on water. Thus, sit-ins are not good because they take on water. Sit on top, self-bail. They've got scupper holes. Again, stupid me, I wasn't listening. I don't know where I ended up getting the idea from, but I brought my knees up and put the paddle against my thighs, and the next wave that came and got me You ever surfed a boogie board at the beach? You know, you jump on that roll and you jump and you just ride that white cap to shore. The next wave that came, as it rolled and the boat went to the right, I just started back paddling against my legs. I just I just started rolling the paddle like this as hard as I could. I was able to catch the cap on that wave. Like, I was able to catch the white cap, and I went for broke. I just kept back pedaling, just trying to hold the boat against the wave. I couldn't turn it, I couldn't paddle it, I couldn't twist the boat, I couldn't get any power, but I just wanted to try to stay on the wave, and I was trying to get the waves to carry me in to where I could get out of the boat. Now, who knows how long this lasted? When you're in a position where you're not gonna make it, and you're thinking you're going 1,000 miles a minute and time slows down, that's fight or flight, right? You slow down. I don't know how long this happened. It felt like I was on the water for minutes. The rain hurt so bad I couldn't even hold my head up. If you've ever been in a bass boat or on a motorcycle running down a highway and got caught in rain, that is the exact sensation. That is how hard the wind-driven rain was. Like, I was actually yelping because it was stinging my neck as if someone was throwing rocks at me. I couldn't look up. I was like this, trying to protect my face because it hurt. When I got to shore, my face was red. The rain was that brutal. My face was red from stinging. I did make it to shore somehow. I'm on this wave and I'm just going back and back and back. And I realized I saw some grass and that the water was shallow enough. And I rolled out of my boat. I rolled out of my boat and I popped up. I grabbed the front of it and I just literally just went for shore. I was safe, but now I'm worried about someone else because he's got his kid with him. I couldn't find him. I wasn't going to leave. I didn't want to call police till I knew what was going on in the situation. So you'll see on the camera me looking around and trying to pan to try to find this guy, and I'm recording this because I don't know what the outcome of this situation is going to be. I made it to shore and I was like, no one's going to believe this. Eventually I did find him. It actually had blown him into the marsh grass. The waves rode him up over the grass and he was in the grass, which usually is only 2 or 3 inches deep. I had a friend of mine, David Souls, who works for Live Storm Media. He's a storm chaser in Central Virginia. And I said, David, I need you to look at some footage because I couldn't figure out anything to tell me how bad it was. But he looked at it, he looked at the footage, and he was like, Warren, if I had to guess, he said, you're dealing with sustained winds of 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour sustained. Again, I told you these were not gusts. These were solid, straight line, the strongest winds I've ever felt, aside from one of the hurricanes that's hit Richmond. But it never let up. The wind did not let up. You couldn't hear over it. Like, it was the worst. It was the worst I've ever seen. And there was no lightning. There was no thunder. There was no lightning. I know it's a little bit of a long story, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because, I mean, no joke, straight legit. I almost died. So what you're about to see is the footage I shot after I got to shore. You're looking at 6 inches of water normally. Like that, we're right there at the bank is like 4 inches deep. And you'll look at the size of the waves that are in 4 inches of water. Now imagine the waves I had dealing with in 8 or 9 foot of water without any protection from the bank. So I hope you liked the video. Sorry if it's a little long-winded. I'm a pretty huge storyteller. So comment if you want, ask me questions if you want, but yeah, this is one of those times when I almost died. Probably the closest I ever came. I'm leaning into this wind. This is every bit of 40 miles an hour. I can almost not stand against it. I got caught out in that. In fact, I just got back in out of that. What in the hell? Holy shit. There's a guy out with a canoe and his son. I can't see him. I'm trying to keep a watch out for him. He went way over there. I saw this coming like a wall. There was just a wall that I couldn't see. Guess that's what happens when you kayak on the Chesapeake. Holy shit. Look at that. I'm pretty proud of myself for paddling through that shit. Whoa. I just got pushed back. Sorry for the shot. See? This is why we have to go in. I want to show my friends how hard the wind's blowing. Can you see? This rain hurts. I was trying to paddle the kayak and the rain was hitting me so hard I couldn't hold my head up. Ow! See? Boat. I was trying to surf back in. Oh my gosh. I can't keep my hood on. I'm blowing it off.